So Matt H. I'm really curious about, TV advertising and the whole sort of agile decision making. I guess, in lockdown, we have had, arguably as a nation, we've watched a lot of telly. I know I certainly have. There's been some fantastic programming all round that's drawn a lot of audiences in. But I suppose the challenge for many marketers in an agile decision-making situation where, things are changing, you don't know what you're promoting, or, depending on consumer demand, they need to flex their media plans. And there's a bit of a historical trend with little flexibility, or perception of little flexibility around TV scheduling. So I guess how Claudia the feedback here. So let's continue. How is TV meeting that need?
Yeah, I think I got the question. After the echoes, I think I heard about 3 times. The fun of team and Zoom calls. So yeah, a couple of things there to break down. So I guess let's start with the changing nature of TV viewing and what happened to TV during lockdown. So what we saw was that TV viewing grew because people weren't commuting, they had more time at home, they were able to enjoy more time with their families, and we saw shared viewing increase. We particularly saw viewing rise amongst lighter viewers. Because I think these are the audiences who are generally more constrained in terms of time and less able to watch TV. We should also add, that it was a brilliant time for Disney Plus to be launching, and that subscription VOD has also seen good growth over this period, because we need entertaining. We've all been looking out for entertainment, so we've seen both broadcaster TV, linear TV, and video on demand grow. We've seen subscription VOD grow, and we've just seen more viewing to TV as a whole. Now, because of the way the TV market works, when you have an increase in supply, so more people watching TV, that impacts on prices, and so your supply goes up, and therefore your price comes down. Also, we've seen a number of sectors that haven't been able to advertise for various reasons. Travel, retail, certainly during the intense period of lockdown, weren't able to advertise, so demand went down, and so the price of TV was very low across the initial period. Now, for Q4 this year, it's actually bouncing back really pretty well, and we're expecting to see possibly a bit of growth in Q4, but alongside slightly higher audiences, it means that the price is still going to be pretty good. So there's also been a lot of advertisers wanting to take advantage of this. We've seen the FMCG advertisers who have been unaffected really by any sort of, if they haven't been impacted by any supply issues, demand has certainly been high. So the P&Gs, the L'Oreals, the Unilevers have been invested heavily in TV and making the most of it. But the broadcasters have also recognised the fact that advertisers need to be more agile in their decision making. They're not going to have what we usually have as this nice grace period where they can book in advance. So it used to be an 8-week booking window. You need to book in advance, and you need to book 8 weeks before your ads are going out, and that gave you the best value in terms of your airtime. It guaranteed you the quality, that you're in the right programs, that you're in the right day parts, and it secured your booking. And obviously that ease of being able to see what was happening down the road disappeared with COVID, and the broadcasters recognised this, so they took away any kind of penalties for later booking, and they've taken what they call their advanced booking deadlines down to 4 weeks, which means that they can offer more flexibility and allow advertisers to make their decisions on spend at a later point than they normally would have done. Now, I think this is something that advertisers really appreciated, and are also saying we want this going forward because it's much easier for us. We can be more agile, we can be more flexible, and we can get the most out of TV. This is money that potentially would normally go to platforms that are just easier to buy, so the likes of Facebook or the likes of Google. So please, can we carry on doing this? And Channel 4 announced last week they are permanently moving their AD deadline to a 4-week period, and I'm expecting that we'll see the other broadcasters follow suit in some form or another. I think the one thing we do need to talk about is the fact that there are pros and cons of this, and that there have been these booking deadlines in place for a reason, and the reason behind that is that that TV advertising is finite. There are a limited number of spots. There are a limited number of programs. So, for example, if you want to advertise within the Great British Bake Off, there are only so many advertisers that can actually secure those spots. The broadcast aren't actually allowed to up the number of minutes that they take. They're regulated by the government to have a fixed number of advertising minutes, and they can't reduce it either. So I think it's sensible that there is some kind of trade-off that goes on, that the earlier that you book, then the more chance you got of getting into the programs that you want, versus the later that you book. Yes, still be able to do it, not going to penalise you for it, but there are going to be cases where you are not necessarily going to get into the programs that you ideally want to be able to get into. And I think as long as we start to sort of understand and talk a bit more about the nuance of the way that TV's traded and understand this, then I think it can just help us plan, and we can make a choice in our decisioning as to whether we're comfortable that we're going to be spending and that we'd like to take advantage of being able to book early and have a more guaranteed about what we're going to get, or we'd rather have a bit more choice, flex over when we're going to spend. Sorry, quite a lot to digest there, because it's not the most simple way of trading, but I think we are. This period has meant that we're moving forward in this front as an industry, and I think it's definitely a sort of silver lining that we can take out of the pandemic.
Yeah, I guess if people want to know more about how TV's bought and planned and accessed, they can find out more with the TV Masters from Thinkbox. So I'll add to that plug there, Matt. I did actually have another question. I think one of the things that the clients I work with are a bit fearful of is a content crush. So all of the content that's on TV right now, we're starting to see that dry out a bit because there've been filming restrictions in place because of COVID. Personally, I'm a big fan of Married at First Sight, and that has happened at the point of COVID, which has made for a really interesting angle on that program. But there are other things like dramas and stuff that may not have got the green light and been able to film. Is that something you're seeing, and how are the TV networks dealing with that to make sure that there is the programming and there are the spots there for the eyeballs?
Yeah, it's really good question. So obviously, one of the sectors that got hit by lockdown was production. So it was nigh impossible to continue to make, especially scripted content, drama, because of the restrictions in place. And I think there were options, extreme options where you could create sort of production bubbles, but it's a huge amount to ask of people to leave their friends and family for a period of 4 months, 5 months to film something. And I think it was a step beyond what most of the broadcasters were willing to take. On one hand, this is actually an advantage to the broadcasters, because any loss of revenue due to dropping demand from certain sectors was slightly counterbalanced by the fact that they just couldn't make programs, so it had a natural impact hit on the program budget, and to a certain extent freed that money up so that they can invest again next year and spend more when hopefully we'll be able to get back on track with all the big sort of productions that they were carrying out anyway. I think the other areas that the broadcasters have been forced to be quite agile in the same way that marketers have, and come up with new formats and new types of programs. I think they've all been, you know, quite creative here and found ways of still producing sort of comedy and studio shows based in people's garages, and you know, use Zoom and Teams as a way of linking things up. And you never know, there could well be a new, you know, some new formats that spring out of this, just because you're in this beautiful constraint. Adam Morgan talks a lot about this. You know, when you're constrained, it actually forces you to be creative, and I think we're going to be seeing that from the broadcasters themselves. But they're doing everything they can to keep their schedules as strong as possible. So even though Wales is going into lockdown, ITV are still going to be finding a way of getting I'm a Celeb out there. And do you know what? I think my personal view is that we've a lot of the population have enjoyed a richness of drama, because we've probably been watching a bit more subscription VOD alongside our linear TV. And do you know what? We're crying out for the likes of Bake Off. It's why Bake Off was, you know, did an extra 2 million this year than it did last year. We're crying out for a bit of I'm a Celeb and good old British reality TV. So I think you might not have the richness next year in terms of drama, but I think there's still going to be, you know, great content that is going to fulfil all the needs of sort of the viewers and offer something probably a little bit different from what they're getting perhaps a bit tired of.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, that was incredibly interesting, and I think especially the idea that if we, you know, we've all had to pivot really quickly now. If we'd have had to plan for this scenario, can you imagine it'd have taken like 6 months to a year at least, you know, all the broadcasters getting together going, what if this would happen? And we've all pivoted, you know, the silver lining is we've all pivoted fairly successfully. So sort of coming to your point there, Matt.